Hello, welcome to my channel. This is Yuton. It's the second part of Simply Understand History of China. Today, I will start from Tang Dynasty. Tang Dynasty was a very flourished and strong empire, especially in the early stage. It lasted for about 300 years. The northern ethnicity had been invading the central plain since the northern and southern dynasty period. During the era of the second emperor of Tang, Li Shiming, Tang had strong military power, defeated all the ethnic groups in the north and the west one by one, and became the co-lord of the mainland at that time. Li Shiming is considered to be one of the greatest emperors in Chinese history, not only because of the strong military power, but also because he humbly accepted advice and loved the people. During Tang Dynasty, Han Chinese got along well with non-Han people, and Hu style prevailed both in the court and in common life. Hu is a collective term for non-Han people from the north and the west. At that time, Hu music, Hu clothing, and Hu food could be seen everywhere in Chang'an City, which was the capital of Tang Dynasty. Therefore, the costume style of Tang Dynasty was very different from that of Han Dynasty. Tang clothing was so hot. See these photos from the related TV series, although they are exaggerated a little bit. This one is funny, because the clothing of actresses in this TV series was too hot to pass the censorship by the government of China. They put extra pieces of clothes on every actress's chest when post-production. Compared with other dynasties, women in Tang Dynasty had higher status, and there was even a female emperor interrupted Tang Dynasty for several years. She was the only one in Chinese history. Furthermore, Tang was a golden age of poems. More than 48,000 Tang poems have been passed down to the present. Although there were outstanding poets in later generations, the overall level was not as good as that of Tang poets. For example, Li Bai and Du Fu. Every Han Chinese know who they are, and they are admired by everyone. Tang poetry has become the impassable peak of ancient Chinese poetry. After the end of the Tang Dynasty, it was a chaotic era again. Many small kingdoms appeared and died. Regime kept changing, just like the northern and southern dynasties after the end of the Han Dynasty. History repeats itself. 70 years later, Han Chinese unified again and established the Song Dynasty. On the other hand, the north was ruled by several powerful non-Han ethnicities. The northern people often invaded Song Dynasty, and Song Dynasty was always at a weak position. Song Dynasty could only get temporary harmony through political marriage, ceding land, and giving them a lot of money. Because the Song court preferred those with literary attainments to serve as officials, there were few outstanding generals in the court. The saying, "A good man should not be a soldier," even spread among the people. Therefore, it is conceivable that Song Dynasty was difficult to win wars with the northern people. Even though Song Dynasty was weak, it was a peak of economics, literature, science and technology, and medicine in Chinese history. At that time, agriculture, printing, papermaking, silk industry, ceramics, shipbuilding, firearms were well developed, and overseas trade was also prosperous. It could trade with countries in South Asia, West Asia, Africa, and Europe. This maritime trade route was known as the Maritime Silk Road. The weak but prosperous Song Dynasty lasted for about 300 years and was destroyed by Mongol Empire. During the Song Dynasty, the Central Asian plateau north of China was divided into several tribal confederations, and they were unfriendly toward each other. Temujin, the founder and the first Khan of the Mongol Empire, conquered all tribal confederations, unified the Central Asian plateau, established the Mongol Empire, and thus got the title of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan and his descendants launched a total of 3 large-scale Western expeditions and annexed more than 40 countries. The territory in the heyday of Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in history. Mongolians were really good at fighting, but they were also really brutal, as evidenced by their habit of massacring the conquered cities. Due to the civil war of Mongol Empire split into 4 Khanates and Yuan Dynasty. Let's back to the Central Plains area. Song Dynasty was a place that Mongol Empire conquered later. Khan of this region was Kublai, grandson of Genghis Khan, and he established the Yuan Dynasty. When the Yuan Dynasty governed the Central Plains area, the majority of population was Han Chinese, so they accept and utilize Han Chinese culture to a certain extent. However, important positions in the court were basically not held by Han Chinese. Han Chinese were still discriminated against to a certain extent. At the end of the Yuan Dynasty, due to the corruption of the government and natural disasters, the people were miserable. Therefore, many forces of Han Chinese rebelled. The force led by Zhu Yuanzhang first unified southern China, established the Ming Dynasty, and proclaimed himself emperor. Then he led a northern expedition to drive the Yuan Dynasty royal family back to the Mongolia area and complete the unification of the Central Plains. Ming Dynasty was the last empire established by Han Chinese. Compared with previous dynasties, Ming was the most totalitarian dynasty. The emperor abolished the position of prime minister and controlled the affairs of the dynasty alone. The emperor set up several intelligence agencies, which belonged to the emperor personally, to monitor courtiers all the time and reported to the emperor. Once the emperor felt there was something wrong with a courtier, he could task an intelligence agent to arrest and secretly interrogate the courtier. As a whole, the Ming emperor seldom trusted their courtiers. On the economic front, private industry and commerce were booming, especially the overseas trade volume of porcelain and silk surpassed that in Song Dynasty, which was up to 2/3 all over the world. Western countries had a lot of interaction with China during the Ming Dynasty. For example, Portugal had commercial firms in Macau. Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and Spain also sent ambassadors to China. Therefore, lots of Western matters were introduced to China, such as Western clock and telescope. Many missionaries also came to China at that time, causing Catholicism and Islam were introduced into China. Ming Dynasty perished for some familiar reasons, namely the corruption of the government and natural disasters, so the people began to rebel against the government. When many rebel forces were fighting with each other, a man named Wu Sangui, a general in charge of guarding Sanhai Guan, opened the gate of Sanhai Guan and allowed foreign army passage to suppress rebels in China. Eventually, these people unified China and established Qing Dynasty. Because Qing people were northern foreign ethnicity, Wu Sangui became an unprecedented sinner in many Han Chinese opinions. By the way, during the Qing Dynasty, there was one easily recognizable feature, the hairstyle of men. The front half of hair would be shaved, and the back half would be braided. Although Qing Dynasty was established by a foreign ethnicity, I think all the emperors of Qing were good, at least not bad. Qing Dynasty lasted for about 300 years. The 3 emperors, Kangxi, Yongzheng, Qianlong were the heydays of Qing when they were in power because of their diligence. Fortunately, these three emperors reigned for a long time, about 135 years in total. Both the royal family of Qing Dynasty and Yuan Dynasty were non-Han people, but compared with Yuan Dynasty, the emperors of Qing were more willing to study and utilize Han Chinese culture. After all, they entered the Central Plains, and the main population of the Central Plains was Han Chinese. They must take advantage of the way of life and custom in the Central Plains in order to achieve a long-term stable regime. Although it was easier for Qing people to get high positions in imperial court than Han Chinese, there were still many Han Chinese in high positions. In the late Qing Dynasty, wars with Western countries continued breaking out one after another. Because of the back-war weapons, Qing Dynasty always lost battles, and the national strength gradually weakened. Many domestic intellectuals study the concept of democracy and human rights in the West, trying to find ways to change the government. These people were divided into two factions: the constitutional monarchy and the revolutionary faction. In the end, after several revolutions launched by revolutionary faction, they finally succeeded in overthrowing the Qing Dynasty, ending the 5,000-year monarchy in China. Of course, there were still many power struggles and wars after the demise of Qing Dynasty, but they have reached a part of the modern history,
and they relate to the current politics. It's too sensitive.
Okay, that is an overview of history of China from the perspective of Han Chinese. It's a very rough talk, leaving a lot of story to tell in the future. And if you have any ideas or opinions, please leave a comment. See you next time!